Hey, how's it going? It's been a minute. I started thinking of kind of like a couple bullet points for this talk. I don't know if you watched the last video, but last video is almost a part two. We kind of talked about hate and kind of seeing that within ourselves and recognizing that sometimes we're projecting that hate onto others. The hate we have for personal traits of ours onto others. And at the end, I said that we were going to talk about kind of the opposite, kind of um, self love. What does it mean to love yourself? What does it mean to recognize some of those positive qualities in oneself? Because it's a really hard thing to do. It's not very often that people kind of break that. Well, I guess people break it down all the time. But I think it's really easy to confuse self love with ego. Ego is a very dangerous thing. I think a lot of us struggle with ego now, both a deficiency of it and maybe a little too much of it at times. I feel that whenever you feel that you have nowhere to improve on, that being an inflated ego, you become complacent in a way. And complacency is a really dangerous area to be in. I remember in my life feeling complacent, and I think I mentioned that um, you're not really moving forward or backwards. You're just okay with where you are. And in this situation, in this aspect of ego, you're not complacent because um, you're comfortable and you don't feel like doing anymore. You're complacent because you've kind of put yourself in a place where this spot in which you are in your life now is the best you'll ever be in. And it's a cool thought for sure. I mean, when you're in it, it feels amazing. But what happens whenever that high kind of dies down, and you think to yourself, "Damn, I was in the best part of my life," and now all of a sudden that inflated ego shrinks. I mean it's stomped out. You have put kind of your situation in your life, regardless of how good it is, uh, you've put it on a pedestal. And the second life kind of moves forward, moves past it, all of a sudden you look back and you see that pedestal and you can't help but think about how much lower you are now. When in reality, that was never there. It was you who put all of that up there. It was you who set that pedestal. And so I think an important part of checking your own ego, and eventually this will lead back to the self love stuff, but checking your own ego kind of is that, how do I say this, that safety, that safety net of when you're doing well. It's good to recognize the ways in which you're doing well and the things that you have done to get to that point. But it's equally important to remember that that maintaining greatness doesn't take a consistent normal pace, so to say. It's like a slow acceleration. Whenever you start to do well, you continue to do well by continuing to improve upon the ways in which you've done well. I don't know if you follow me, but you would rather be, instead of peaking one place, staying there, and dropping, you would rather slowly, consistently, what's the word? Have a gradual growth, a continuous passive growth. I say that, and maybe you would like to peak early and then kind of die out. But me personally, I would like to think that hopefully my life hopefully my life only gets better from this point. And from every point past this point, it only gets better. Of course there's low areas, but this is what we hope for. And back to the ego conversation, whenever we recognizing what we've done well is a very important part of living life. It's celebrating those victories, but getting lost in them it can be detrimental to our person. So to kind of sum up that point, uh, it's good to be proud of yourself, but don't be prideful. There's always room for growth, regardless of what point of your life you're in. And to the opposite end of it, if you're not doing too well and all you can think about is another point in your life, remember that if you're in a hole, you're deep in this hole and you're looking up, just staring at the distance will only make the hole go deeper. But if you start to claw and climb, you'll eventually reach that pinnacle. And once you get to the top, once you drag yourself out of that hole, you can start to look to taller, greater horizons. And I don't know if that sounds a little too philosophically, but I mean, if you're stuck in the same low spot and all you can think about is how you're in this low spot, you'll never get better. That's essentially all I'm saying. And again, this ties back to self love because a lot of us are just way too hard on ourselves. Way too hard on ourselves. We kind of sit and think about how we could have done this better, we could have done that better. But that's such a depressing way to live. I remember I struggled with that very heavily of no matter what I accomplished, I felt like it wasn't enough or like someone was always doing better than me, which may be true. But we all move at our own pace in this life. We all have different steps. I remember seeing people graduate college and thinking, "Man, I wish that was me. That sucks. I'm still in this. This sucks. Like I don't want to be in here. I mean, this I'm not having fun anymore. It's not. It's just like people are dangling this above my head. But that was never my path was still ahead of me. But because I was too busy looking forward and kind of growing jealous of what other people had, I lost sight of what I had. Because of that comparison, I lost myself. And had I loved myself, had I really shown myself some of that kind of I guess mercy in some of these situations, then maybe I would have been better off. And that's not something I resonate on necessarily, but if we just show ourselves a little bit of lenience, a little bit more love, then truthfully, there's a lot more that we can accomplish with the time that we have. Because thinking about what could have been done or what someone else is doing, hell, there's probably millionaires my age right now. There are millionaires my age right now. But what does that have to do with me? That doesn't make my value less. That doesn't make my accomplishments any smaller. That doesn't make the effort that I put into the things I do every day meaningless. There's still a reason for what we do. There's still a purpose to it. And again, I'm going to keep reiterating the same point because I really want to drill this into your head. If you just loved yourself, if you just forgave yourself the same way you forgave other people, and maybe that's a problem you have too. Maybe it's difficult for you to forgive others. It's difficult for you to let go of other people's failures, and you treat yourself in that same way. And in some situations, it's okay to hold people responsible, and it's okay to hold yourself accountable, but don't minimize everything you do for the sake of holding yourself accountable. Don't do that because it's a really sad road to walk. It really is. It's a really sad path to follow. And I kind of went over this. Whenever we whenever we hate other people, I mentioned this before. So a lot of the times what we hate in them are some of those qualities that we hate in ourselves. And I'd like to extend that to love. Whenever we love other people, whenever we really care for others, I think that sometimes it's because we see some of our favorite aspects of ourselves in those people. I have an amazing group of friends that I play Dungeons and Dragons with about every other weekend. And we talk all the time. We went to high school together. I love those guys to death. I love them. And I think the reason why I love them so much is because, and especially when we were younger in high school, is because they were every bit of what I wanted to be. They they were passionate about their hobbies. They didn't care about other people's opinions of them. They were planning for the future. They had these in my head. They had these clear goals, and they were cool, and they were so driven and creative, and intelligent, and confident. And I loved that about my friends. I love that about them, and I guess that's what drew me to them. That's what kept me around them, and in a way, those are things that I wish I had, and I'm trying now to kind of practice this. Is that I think I do have some of those qualities, and I love those qualities in my friends, and maybe I should love myself for having some of those qualities too. I admire those people for those qualities, so why not admire me for some of those qualities? And I hope that you tell yourself that too. Of I love, let's say this is for y'all. So let's say I love how devoted my homeboy is to his athletic career, and you're in practice every day with him, but you don't show yourself that same love. You don't wake up and say, "Dang, I'm really doing my thing because I'm waking up and going to practice. I'm doing great." Because it's so much harder to see that in ourselves. Again, so it's that self reflection. It's that recognizing these things within ourselves. If you just looked around you and saw the patterns that you set for you, the things that you subconsciously do, the people that you surround yourself with, your goals, your aspirations, the person you hope to become, it'll reveal itself to you because and hopefully this is the case because you've surrounded yourself with people who have a common interest, a common goal, and ultimately you hope to lead something similar to what they have. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe use them as an example of what not to do. And this is why I think it's really important to pick the right friends, to pick the right group of people, to not get mixed up in the wrong crowd because it can be so easy to make yourself miserable trying to force yourself into a crowd with people you really don't belong with people that maybe don't have the same interests or don't want what's best for you. So show yourself that self love and that self preservation a little bit, and be really specific, be really intentional with who you keep around you. Uh, Look within yourself and look for some of those qualities and some of those things that you admire in other people, and learn to admire them in yourself. That's probably the best advice I could give because I mean it's advice that even I need to take on occasion because I admire my friends and I admire my family for certain things, and I forget to think to myself, man, they probably think the same thing about me. So let's celebrate that. And maybe some homework. Maybe think of some things that you really love about yourself, or maybe that your friends love about you. Um, Leave a comment. Let me know what you want to hear me kind of talk about next. Even though I might not be an expert on the topic, I can definitely linger on it for a while and try and brainstorm. And if I can't think of anything, then I'll let you know. And maybe I'll just come on here and yap and think out loud for a little bit. But I really love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great rest of whatever period of time is left on whatever time cycle that you operate on. Um, Take care of yourself. Drink some water. Eat some food if possible. And I'm going to say good night because it's nighttime for me. So have a great night. Love you guys. See you in the next video. And let me know what you want me to talk about. I really like these. They help me a lot. Kind of work through some feelings. Kind of um, recognize a lot of things that maybe I wish someone else would tell me. But it just takes me telling myself in these videos. Uh, Let me know if I can help you with anything or if you're struggling with something, and maybe we can work through it together. So take care of yourself. Love you. Have a good one.